There are many, many other inventory models that I told you exist in practice. Lot of quantitative details, mathematical details that go into that. As you relax the assumptions that demand is uniform, lead time is negligible, lead time is not a variable, so on. When you have quantity discounts, so you recall the EOQ has all these kinds of assumptions. If you relax these assumptions, the models get much more complex. But definitely there is a model for any kind of realistic situation that you can come up with, almost any kind of. So when there is variation in demand, when there is variation in lead time, there are different models. There are continuous review models. There is periodic review models, which we'll not get into in this video. There are models for quantity discounts. And even in quantity discounts, you may have two different scenarios where if you buy over 1,000 units, you will get all the 1,000 units for a lower per unit cost. That is what I'm calling as all units. Whereas quantity discounts may be incremental. That is, if you buy up to 1,000, you get for a particular dollar amount per unit. But above 1,000, the first 1,000 you will still pay the same original amount. For every unit above 1,000, you get a discount. That is incremental discount. So there is a model to tackle that scenario. Another very well-known model is the newsboy model. The newsboy model or the newsperson model is where you are a vendor. You have a kiosk in New York City, for example. You have 100 New York Times in your kiosk. If 95 people come in and buy the New York Times, you're stuck with 5 extra New York Times. Do you think you can sell that tomorrow? Absolutely not. On the other hand, if I have 100 New York Times copies, I sold them all, and 10 more people came in looking for the New York Times. That is also not good. So in the first instance, you ended up with excess inventory. In the second one, you had loss of sales, loss of profit. So your job as the newspaper vendor is to have the ideal number of newspapers so that you will not end up with inventory or with shortage. Because this particular product, the newspaper, is valid for just that day. Can you think of other products that have similar situation? Anything that has a shelf life falls under the newsperson model. Eggs, cake, any baked items, meat, produce, tickets for a show. All of these are called the single time period inventory control problems. You sell it or lose it. For that kind of the genre of inventory control problems is known as the newsboy or the newsperson model, where for every unit you sell, there is a profit. For every unit that you don't sell, there is a loss. And for every unit that you don't have in inventory, you have an opportunity cost. So if the selling price is $100, the cost price is $80, then you have a profit of $20 for every unit that you are selling. If you have less inventory, you're losing the opportunity of making $20. On the other hand, the cost price is $80, but the salvage price is only $50, which means if you have excess inventory and you can't sell it, you will lose that opportunity to sell that, but you can still salvage $50, which means you will still lose $30 for every unit unsold. Given this kind of data and scenario, you have to determine how many units to keep in inventory. This is called the newsperson model. This is the model when you plan banquets, for example. When you have 1,500 people attending the banquet in a huge conference, should I order 1,500 meals? The answer to to the lay person is yes, but invariably there'll be no-shows. Invariably there'll be people who will show up who are not RSVP'd. Are you going to tell them to go away? Typically, no. So it is a tough decision for the manager there when there are 1,500 people that are attending, then to have either 1,400, 1,450, 1,550, because if you order 1,450 and 1,500 people show up, it's a big problem. 50 people will not have anything to eat, and that's not pretty. On the other hand, if you ordered 1,500 and only 1,450 show up, you will still pay it for 1,500, and there are 50 plates that go waste, and you paid for it. So it is a very, very difficult decision for the news person kind of models. In this case, each dinner may cost $80 in a big hotel. So you're talking about 80 times 50, which is $4,000. For a news person, it may be, for every unit of the newspaper, it may be 50 cents to $1. So there is a model to address that also. So what I've done here is given you a flavor for how inventory control models work and given you some overview of ABC analysis, cycle counting, how is holding cost calculated, and so on.